on your charts, then it's you that's the problem, isn't it? It's you. It's 100% you that's the problem. So have a look at your charts. Are your level 2s marked accordingly? Do you have short covers? Do you have long accumulations? Do you have long liquidations? Do you have long accumulations? Oh, I've already said that one. It doesn't make any difference. You should have it twice. Do you have all those elements? If they don't, have a think about it. What are you doing here? Have a serious think about it. If your charts aren't up to date, if your charts are not prepared, if you're not doing your business plan properly, then of course the key to this is so bloody straightforward. Recognizing the changes you from a seller to a buyer. It's that fundamental. Recognizing that shift there changes you from a seller to a buyer, and from that point onwards we have been predominantly sell side getting reversed into buy bottom edges. And any sell we take is a profit take sell, profit take sell, profit take sell, profit take sell, buy bottom edges, buy bottom edges, buy bottom edges, buy pullbacks, buy bottom edges. And then from that point, of course, we start working out our measures, we start working out our cappers, we start working out our pullbacks, we start working out all of these other key elements that we get from a normal basic market structure. The takeaway, you can see the takeaway was spectacular. A bottom edge of 1916, 1917, a top edge of 1937 for $2,000. That's a pretty good outcome, right? Now, obviously, when we see these things, I mean, I'm not saying that you're in that whole trade, right? Well, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you could have been in that whole trade. When you look at the overall shape of this, you can see that there was obviously twists and turns that started to evolve around these areas. We started to recognize the shapes changing. You can see, for example, when we came into this pullback here, you start drilling down into that pullback and you start asking the question, can I find a way to be long into that pullback narrative? When you start coming up into the top edge, you can see quite clearly that the blue line is becoming a little bit perky into that top line. So if the blue line's becoming perky, when did the blue line become perky? Well, we can all recognize when the blue line became perky. Where? Well, the blue line started to show up as a top line from this point onwards, right? So every high, obviously, there hadn't been a level 2, had there? This wasn't a level 2. This was a level 2 here, but what kind of level 2 was that? What kind of level 2 was that? Well, if the value is still bullish, then that level 2 there must be a long liquidation. So what would you have on your gold charts up here? A long liquidation, right? So your gold charts up here, you would have a long liquidation. And if you've got a long liquidation, what are you going to then look for? You're still a buyer on dips, aren't you? You're still a buyer on dips. So if you're still a buyer on dips, you're looking to try and find a buy on dips. Now, I don't think there was one, to be honest. I don't think there was any buys on dips. But from that point onwards, what happened? All the highs are now showing up as short accumulations, right? So obviously, if I draw a level 2 again there, and we see this one, the blue line is now quite clearly premiumed against the red line. The green line, which is the yen, is now dropping. So what is this box called? This box here is now called a short accumulation, right? So this is now an SA box. Short accumulations into the high prices. And obviously that's now we're starting to see that short accumulation taking place into those highs, into a very interesting price level in the background, which is, of course, the measured move. Now, if this is the first level 2, which it is right there, if that's the first level 2, then, of course, the level 2 with the lowest low becomes the capper price. So what should you also have in your charts? You should always also have the cap buyer price. Agreed? So there's the cap buyer right there. And if you've got a cap buyer price, what should you also have? You should also have on your screens your current measured move. So when we take the highs and the measured move and the buyer's price, then of course that becomes our measure. That should also be live on your current screens. If your charts aren't up to date, guys, That's up to you. That is entirely up to you. So when we recognize these areas, we start recognizing some level 2 boxes, we start recognizing some of these key little references, we can start just labeling our charts. Now, labels are not for life. You can change according to how the value evolves. You can start changing the value narratives. You can see the references. The level 2 never changes. The level 2 was basically intact all the way through this entire process, wasn't it? You can see how easy it is to spot those elements coming into what price? The measured move. Coming into what price? The RGL in the background. The red side RGL, which was tweeted last night. Yeah. Why is this top edge a level 2? Because it's just a level 2. It broke back inside the previous high. So as soon as the price breaks back inside the previous high, it's going to be a level 2. Our job is to define what the level 2 is. And the level 2, based on value, was pretty much a long liquidation at that stage. And from that point onwards, it seems as if it's just exhaustion into the top edges, which is really interesting, of course. But it's just exhaustion into the top edges at this stage now. And from this point onwards, we can see that the value has been sell side up to a point, and it was sell side up to a point, because you can see the dollar flip coming into this trade from the bottom edges here. The dollar flip came in here. And obviously at that stage, there's no real buy opportunity, but you can see the blue line drops and the red line doesn't drop just there on the far right-hand side on the last red candle. And then we start to see this bottom edge forming here for a nice basic profit take into that candle just there, right? And that was a nice profit take. So that's just going to be a profit take. Time to go back towards the top edges and see what happens up here in terms of structures, in terms of basic structures.